A wealthy father revealed a shocking choice: his son's incredible love for a hidden cleaning lady. Jack Thompson stood at the grand entrance of his father's mansion, the glittering chandeliers casting prisms of light against the pristine marble floor. His upbringing had been woven from the finest silks, trust funds, private schools, luxury cars. And yet, deep in his chest, a nagging discontent stirred. Despite the opulence around him, something was amiss. He felt like a marionette dancing to his father Richard's controlling strings, straining endlessly to maintain the Thompson name. Then Maria entered the scene. An immigrant cleaning lady with calloused hands and a fierce spirit, she worked tirelessly as Richard renovated an expansive wing of the mansion. Their first encounter was mundane. She greeted him with a polite nod, her attention focused on diligently scrubbing faded woodwork. But that instant crackled with an unexpected energy, one that would ignite an emotional wildfire in Jack's heart. As days passed, Jack found himself drawn to her. Their exchanges started as mere greetings but soon transformed into real conversations. Maria shared stories of family, resilience, and the struggles that defined her journey. The burdens of life she spoke of, while heavy, were colored with hope. Jack felt alive for the first time. Her laughter reverberated through the gilded rooms of his life, melting the icy expectations imposed on him. The opulence faded in comparison to the warmth she offered. He admired her unwavering dedication to her family, how she found joy in simple moments, while he felt suffocated under the lofty ideals of success. Maria's dream wasn't a mansion or wealth but a better life for her children. Before long, their bond deepened. He was captivated by her spirit, the way she stood tall despite the world's judgment. Reminded him of what it meant to be human. They made each other laugh. She teased him about his spoiled upbringing, and he admired her strength. As Jack watched her clean with skill and purpose, he felt a sense of admiration he had never known. There in that luminous home of privilege, they crafted a world of their own, where socio-economic barriers faded into the background, but Richard soon uncovered their connection. The revelation ignited a firestorm. "Jack, this is not how we conduct ourselves," Richard thundered, his expression darkening. The room crackled with tension as Jack stood frozen. "You're destined for greatness, not this." The disdain dripped from his father's words like poison. Richard wanted Jack to seize an opportunity with the Harrington family, a wealthy alliance that would bolster their business. Heart racing, Jack felt torn between loyalty to his father and the love he was starting to understand for Maria. He realized his father's world thrived on privilege while Maria's thrived on grit. It felt like a betrayal of some unspoken contract to follow his heart, yet the thought of losing her was unbearable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days morphed into tumultuous nights as he wrestled with his father's words. As the renovation progressed, Jack found himself lost in thoughts of Maria, her laughter, her fierceness, her innate ability to find joy in every moment. This was love, wasn't it? A choice between the weight of expectation and a fleeting chance at true happiness. With the tension thickening and the confrontation looming, he stood at an emotional crossroads that would define him. Would he choose his father's legacy or dare to carve out a new path with Maria, the cleaning lady who turned his world upside down? The answer danced just out of reach, stirring a deep question within him: what was real in a world that measured worth by wealth? And as Jack contemplated his future, the stakes rose, leaving readers keenly anticipating what he would choose next. Jack stood in his bedroom, the ink-black night wrapped tightly around him. Moonlight filtered through his half-drawn curtains, casting a silver glow that painted shadows on the wall. He sat at the edge of his bed, heart pounding, mind racing. The confrontation with his father had sent shockwaves of doubt rippling through his very soul. What would it mean to choose Maria? A million questions flooded his mind. Would he be a disappointment? Would his father cut him off? What if the rest of society judged him for loving a cleaning lady? It felt selfish, daring even, to consider a life away from the crumbling expectations laid before him. Yet, the vision of Maria's smile, her laughter that danced in his ears, made the weight of his father's words feel a little lighter. That he needed to see her. It was the simplest thought, yet the most profound. In that moment it was as if a dangerous fire crackled within him, a prompting against the odds to pierce the veil of wealth and privilege he'd been cocooned in. Jack made his way through the darkened halls, careful not to wake anyone. Each creak of the floorboards echoed, carrying with it remnants of his unease. As he stepped outside, the cool night air wrapped around him, a stark contrast to the warmth he felt in his heart when he thought of Maria. His thoughts drifted to their stolen moments, the way she brushed her hair behind her ear while laughing, the way her eyes sparkled when discussing her children's dreams. She spoke with such passion, a love so pure that it made Jack want to leap without looking. That he navigated through the expansive garden, his heart quickening as he approached the small staff quarters. The light flickering through her window was a beacon. Jack knocked gently, anxiety gnawing at him. A soft rustle broke the silence, followed by the sound of footsteps approaching. Maria's face appeared in the doorway, surprised. "Jack. What are you doing here?" Her voice wrapped around him, instantly calming his tumult. "I had to see you. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened." She stepped aside, motioning for him to enter. Inside, the space was modest yet alive, filled with the fragrance of fresh flowers she had picked earlier that day. It was a world far removed from the echoes of privilege he knew, yet it felt infinitely more welcoming. "What's troubling you?" she asked, concern etched across her features. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm torn, Maria." He took a breath, the weight of his confession settling between them. "My father wants me to marry into wealth. He wants me to continue the family legacy. But I don't want that. I want to be with you." The room fell silent, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Maria's brow furrowed, arms crossing over her chest defensively. "But what about your life? Your family? This is complicated." "I know it is. But I can't ignore what I feel for you." Jack stepped closer, urgency shimmering in his voice. "When I'm with you, I'm myself. I'm not just the heir to the Thompson name. I'm just Jack." She hesitated, looking down, her hands trembled slightly. "You mean that? What if you lose everything?" His heart raced, desperation creeping in. "If it means I lose my father's approval but find my happiness, then yes, I would take that risk. Being with you, that's the only thing that feels real." Maria's gaze locked onto his, and he saw the spark of hope begin to flicker in her eyes. Still, doubt flickered there too. "And what if your father never accepts me? What if he taxes you for pursuing what feels right?" The tension hung thick between them, as Jack willed his heart to talk over all the fears. "Then we'll find a way. Together." As the words hung in the air, he could practically feel Maria's walls beginning to crumble. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers, the warmth igniting something deep within both of them, but just as hope soared, a harsh voice broke the silence. "Jack! Get back inside." Richard's booming voice echoed through the hall, an ominous reminder of the reality waiting for them. Fear gripped him, but Jack turned back to Maria, their eyes meeting in a moment that felt electric. "I can't let this end now. I want to lose you." The shadow of his father loomed larger, but the fire of love flickered brightly in Jack's chest. He knew the battle had just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. As he stepped forward, determination coursing through him, Maria's grip tightened. Together then, she whispered, a quiet affirmation that echoed louder than any promise he'd ever made. But the next moment, something unexpected shifted deep in the shadows, steering the course of their fate. What lay ahead could change everything, and Jack found himself wondering if he had the strength to fight not just for love but for dignity, against his father's world. Jack's heart raced, the urgency of the moment electrifying the air between him and Maria. He could hear his father's footsteps getting closer, the sound echoing like thunder in his ears. It was time for action, for choices to be made. "Stay here," he whispered firmly to Maria, taking a step back. She opened her mouth, ready to protest, but he shook his head. "I don't want you to face him. Not yet." She bit her lip, the fear pooling in her eyes. "Jack, don't go out there. You know how he is." He nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. Yet digging deep, he felt something shift inside him. A newfound strength surged with every heartbeat. "I have to face him. For us." With that conviction, Jack turned and stepped back into the dark hallway, the shadows closing in on him like a shroud. Each step toward the looming confrontation felt monumental, a step away from the safety of her warmth and into the cold reality of his father's world. As he approached the staircase, Richard's voice boomed through the mansion again. "Jack! Now!" He could sense the disappointment and anger brewing, like a storm ready to erupt. Tension coiled in Jack's stomach. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Father," he said as he reached the foot of the stairs, meeting the piercing gaze of Richard Thompson. "You wanted to talk." Richard's eyes narrowed, his jaw tense as he took in the sight of his son. "What were you doing out there? Do you even realize what could happen if someone saw you sneaking around? This isn't just a game, Jack." Jack swallowed hard, the weight of his father's expectations pressing down on him. "It's not a game, Father. It's my life." "Your life?" Richard exclaimed, incredulous. "Your life is to secure a future for this family, to uphold our legacy. It's not to chase after some cleaning lady." Those words cut through Jack like a knife. "She's more than that, Father. She's amazing. You don't know her." "I don't need to know her." Richard snapped back, his face flushed with anger. "What you need to understand is that who you choose to love affects everything. Your choices reflect on this family, and I can't live my life based on your expectations." Jack shouted, realization crashing down around him, like an awakening from a long sleep. "You don't get to decide who I love or how I live. That's up to me." Silence engulfed the moment. Richard's eyes widened, shock playing across his features, and for a split second, Jack wondered if he had gone too far. But something inside of him burned with defiance. This was his moment. "You think I care about money or power?" Jack pressed on, his voice steady. "I don't want a life filled with empty dinners and forced smiles. I want to be happy. I want Maria." Richard's expression shifted from shock to disdain. "You think she will bring happiness? You? With her?" A surge of frustration bubbled to the surface. "She is everything to me. And if you can't accept that, then maybe you need to reconsider what's truly important." With those words hanging heavy in the air, Jack took a breath. The tension in the room was palpable. He felt a mix of dread and exhilaration, wind beneath the wings of his newfound resolve. "Jack," Richard finally said, his voice cold. "You don't know what you're saying. You're throwing away our family's name." "This is my name, too," Jack replied, heart pounding. "Then so be it. If I have to fight for what's real, then that's what I'll do." He turned away, the weight of what he'd just said amplifying the defiance that pulsed through him. Jack had crossed a line, and as he made his way back to Maria, the gravity of his father's glare followed him like a storm cloud. Just as he reached the staff quarters, he hesitated, unsure of the look Maria might give him. Would she see courage or recklessness? Would she believe in him? As he stepped inside, her eyes met his, and in that moment, he saw uncertainty but also something deeper. "What happened?" she asked softly. "I told him I loved you," Jack said, the truth echoing in the small room. Maria's breath caught in her throat. "And I told him I'd fight for us," he said, "this time. with a strength that surprised even him. But before they could celebrate this bold leap, a loud crash broke the moments that followed. The dark shadows stirred ominously, and Jack realized the battle was far from over. What was that? Maria glanced behind him, fear in her voice. Something was about to shift again, and amidst an unsettling silence, Jack felt dread trickle down his spine. Had he truly prepared for the storm that lay ahead, or would he find that fighting for love meant confronting something he never anticipated? The air was thick as Jack stood in the doorway, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through him. The loud crash was echoed by the trembling walls of the staff quarters, a harbinger of the chaos threatening to erupt around them. Jack's mind scrambled, racing to piece together the sudden shift in the atmosphere. What was that, Jack? Maria's voice quivered, her eyes wide with fear. I don't know, he admitted, pinning his focused gaze toward the hallway. A knot tightened in his stomach. He had squared off against his father, but this felt different. Maybe it's just something falling, she suggested weakly, hope tinged with dread. But Jack shook his head, instincts kicking in. No. It's not just that. He could feel the tension coiling, like a spring ready to snap. We should. Before he could finish his thought, another crash reverberated through the halls, louder this time, more deliberate. The mansion, with its grand history and exaggerated opulence, now felt like a trap closing in around them. We need to go, he urged, stepping closer to Maria. I won't let him hurt you. Jack, she whispered, reaching out, her fingers brushing against his. In that fleeting moment, he felt a surge of determination. They had come too far for him to let fear control them now. But just as he turned to lead her away, a voice cut through the darkness. Where do you think you're going? Richard appeared at the entrance, framed by the glowing amber light from the hallway. His face was taut, anger radiating off him like heat from a fire. Beside him stood George, his loyal right-hand man, a silent guardian in the chaos that marked Richard's reign. Jack felt each word Richard spat hit him like ice. You think you can just walk away from your responsibilities, Jack? From me? We're not playing your games anymore, father. Jack's voice was raw, but he felt grounded, uttering the words. You've lost the right to tell me what to do. With each exchange, the tension thickened, threatening to choke them both. Maria moved closer to him, and Jack could feel the warmth of her presence cutting through the cold air of retribution that surrounded them. Richard's eyes flickered with something darker, an emotion Jack couldn't decipher but felt echo deep in his bones. And you think you can take her away like she's nothing but a shadow? Love doesn't just erase what's at stake here, Jack. Our family legacy, your legacy. Jack interrupted him fiercely. Not mine. I won't let it rule my life. Not anymore. Richard took a step forward, and the air seemed to crackle with frustration. You fool. You don't understand what's at stake. You'll ruin everything. Maybe ruining everything is what needs to happen, Jack said, feeling the heat of defiance build in him. Maybe that's the only way to find out what really matters. At that moment, a deep rattling resonated from the upper floor. It was a sound that sent a shiver racing down Jack's spine. He had a feeling that whatever was happening upstairs was linked to the brewing storm in front of him. Stay back, Maria, he instructed, aware that they were on a precipice, teetering towards something that could change everything. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet there was steel behind it. I need to face him. Not just for us, but for the truth, Jack replied, his resolve steadied. If it gets too dangerous, I need you to run. Get to safety. Promise me. I'm not leaving you, Jack, she insisted firmly, her grip tightening around his hand. But before he could argue, another crash echoed from upstairs, and the lights flickered ominously. We're out of time, he gritted through his teeth, pushing back the worry that threatened to overwhelm him. Just then, Richard's sneer broke through the chaos. You want truth? Fine. Let us see how far you're willing to go. With that, He motioned to George, who stepped forward, a glint of something illicit in his expression. "Jack, what are they going to do?" Maria gasped. "I'll find a way to make this right," he said, doubt flaring in his chest but determination stronger than ever. He had already spilled too much of his heart. He wasn't about to take a step back now that in the swirling chaos of family loyalty, unyielding love and undeniable fear, the question loomed over him: what would he risk for the truth? With one last look at Maria, the storm began, setting the course for one fateful choice that could change everything. Jack's heart pounded as Richard's cruel grin widened. The walls of the mansion felt like they were closing in, squeezing out any chance of escape. George stepped forward, his jaw set, ready to follow Richard's orders without question. Jack felt a flare of anger at the thought of being trapped like this, confronted by the shadows of his past. "Step aside, George," Jack said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his muscles. "This isn't your fight." Richard laughed, a dark, humorless sound that echoed down the corridor like a warning bell. "Isn't it? You think you can challenge me without consequences? You're still my son, and you'll learn that family holds all the power. You can fight me if you want, but I'll always win. We'll see about that." Jack's words came out stronger than he felt. He could sense Maria's fear radiating like a warm light, urging him on, igniting sparks of courage within him. "Enough games." Richard's voice boomed, cutting through the air. He glared at Maria, and Jack could see the flicker of calculation in his father's eyes. Jack couldn't allow Maria to be a pawn in this twisted game anymore. With a sudden surge, he grabbed Maria's hand. "This isn't just about us. It's about breaking free from the chains he has created." Jack, she hesitated, glancing between him and Richard, uncertainty clouding her expression. "Trust me," he implored. The urgency in his voice felt like a lifeline. Jack pulled her toward the living room, where the shadows danced ominously, casting shapes that resembled his fears. He pushed the door open, and the atmosphere shifted abruptly, a draft of cool air rushed in, as if the outside world was calling to them. "Don't you dare think you can run," Richard's voice cut through. "You'll regret it." Jack turned back, adrenaline sparking in him. We've already regretted too much. The tension hung thick in the air, electric. He could feel the weight of Richard's gaze on them, like a predator stalking its prey. He led Maria to the staircase. A primal instinct stirred within him, driving him forward. They had to confront whatever chaos awaited them upstairs, no matter how daunting. If the truth was hidden there, they would find it together. "Stay close," he urged as he climbed the stairs two at a time, the wood creaking beneath him, a sound haunting and foreboding. They reached the landing just as another crash resounded above, the sound like thunder rolling through the hollow mansion. Jack paused for a brief second, his heart hammering in his chest. "What if it's something terrible?" Maria whispered, squeezing his hand. "Or maybe it's everything we've been looking for," he replied, trying to sound brave. He pushed open the door to the attic, a place filled with secrets and shadows. Dust motes hung in the air, illuminated by the pale moonlight streaming in through a window. As they stepped inside, a sense of finality washed over him, as if they had crossed a threshold into a different realm. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the dim light, silhouetted against the broken furniture and forgotten treasures. It was familiar yet twisted with the weight of secrets. "Jack." The voice was shaky, surprised. "Who are you?" Jack asked, instincts on high alert, but just as the figure stepped into the light, Jack felt every muscle in his body freeze at the revelation. A truth he never anticipated loomed before him, questioning everything he thought he knew. "Your father isn't the only one with secrets," Jack. The figure's words hung in the air, an unwelcome promise that something monumental was about to unfold. It was a moment that would shift everything. Would they stand strong against the truths that threatened to unravel their world? In that charged silence, Jack realized facing the truth might require even deeper sacrifices than he'd ever imagined. What was he willing to lose to uncover what lay hidden in the shadows? Jack's breath caught in his throat, the familiar voice reverberating in his ears like a haunting melody he tried to forget. As the figure stepped into the dim light, the last remnants of his certainty began to crack. Standing there, in ragged jeans and a faded t-shirt, was Evelyn, his childhood friend, the one he thought was lost to time, the one that had vanished amidst the chaos of the past. Evelyn, he breathed, emotions swirling within him. What are you doing here? Maria looked between Jack and Evelyn, confusion lining her features. You know her. More than you can imagine, Jack replied, keeping his eyes locked on Evelyn, who seemed both fragile and fierce, like a delicate flower blooming from the cracks of concrete. I had to come, Evelyn said, her voice steady despite the tremor. There's so much I need to tell you. Your father, he's not the man you think he is. Richard's menacing presence loomed over the doorway, a dark silhouette pinching the entry to the attic. You shouldn't be here, he spat, eyes narrowing. Leave now, before you regret it. Regret? Evelyn's voice rose, fueled by resolve. You think I'm afraid of regret? You've created a legacy of fear, Richard, and it stops now. Jack felt a spark ignite within him at her words, an unexpected strength surging forward. Stop lying, father. She deserves to know the truth. Richard's laughter bounced off the attic walls, an unsettling sound that echoed like a warning. You think you can defy me? You're the puppet, Jack. Always have been. You don't get to control me anymore, Jack shot back, his heart quickening with each moment. The air grew thick with tension, every word drawing them closer to a cliff's edge. Jack, we need to listen, Maria urged quietly, her grip tightening around his hand. What secrets does she hold? Evelyn stepped closer, her expression earnest. There's a reason I disappeared, Jack. Your father's influence runs deeper than you know. He wasn't just hiding me, he was hiding the truth about your family. We all paid a price. Jack's mind raced, flashes of their childhood cascading through his memory. The laughter, the secrets they shared, intertwined with the darkness that Richard had always cast. What do you mean? What truth? The family business. Evelyn hesitated, searching Jack's eyes for an anchor. It's not just about money. It's built on lies. Your mother's absence. It was no accident. And the reason I left it was to protect you, to protect us. A chill swept through Jack as he processed her words. The hidden layers of his life began to peel away, revealing a betrayal that cut deeper than he had ever anticipated. What did you find out, Evelyn? Before she could reply, Richard surged forward, aggressive and imposing, blocking Evelyn's path. Don't listen to her. She's just trying to manipulate you. Evelyn stood firm, defiance burning in her eyes. I wouldn't be here if I didn't care about you, Jack. You have a choice. It's not just about breaking free from your father but deciding whether you want to break the cycle. Jack's heart thundered in his chest. He was teetering on the edge of a realization, hovering between past loyalty and the possibility of a new future. Finally, he looked deep into Evelyn's pleading eyes and felt the weight of his family's legacy pressing down on him. Then show me, Jack demanded, determination driving his words. Show me everything. Evelyn nodded, stepping closer, her intensity plain. But you have to be ready. This will unravel everything you thought was true. As Jack looked at Maria, he could see the flicker of concern mixed with hope. Their lives were intertwined with danger, truth, and resilience. Every second mattered in that attic, where shadows melded with memories. What would they discover if they dared to uncover the unimaginable truth of their past? Jack took a step forward, ready to confront the darkness. I'm ready. Let us see what's been hidden. But before Evelyn could respond, the room shook with a tremor, rattling windows and sending dust flying, as if the mansion itself was warning them of the storm ahead. The tremor was more than just a physical response. It felt like a reminder, a shudder of fate, trembling through the air that surrounded them. Jack steadied himself, adrenaline pumping. Maria's fingers tightened around his hand, her worry palpable. He could feel the crackle of electricity between them, pushing him to make a choice, quickening his pulse as the world around them momentarily stilled. Richard glared, his silhouette darkening against the shafts of dust-filled light that streamed from the attic's old windows. "You've rattled enough cages, Evelyn. I'm not losing you or Jack to this nonsense." Jack shook his head, refusing to be intimidated. "Isn't it enough, father? Your lies have driven us apart for years. Now you're only digging deeper." Evelyn stepped toward Jack, her presence like a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. "Jack, the truth is powerful, but it's painful. Are you prepared for what you might find?" "I have to know, especially now," he replied, his voice stronger than he felt. "I won't let fear dictate my future." Richard scoffed, shaking his head in disbelief. "You think you're ready to take on the family legacy? You've always been weak, Jack, no better than your mother." The words hit like shards of glass, but Jack didn't waver. "Don't you dare talk about her," Jack shot back, feeling a familiar rage bubble to the surface. "You've already taken so much from me." Evelyn placed a hand on his arm. "We need to stick together. If we're going to break free from his grip, we have to do this as a team. But trust and courage are the first steps." Jack met her gaze, searching for any trace of doubt. All he found was determination, the same fierce kindness he remembered from their childhood. "Okay," he said, his voice steady. "But what are we up against?" Evelyn took a deep breath. "The company, the wealth it's built on threats and silence. Your father's decisions have not only crushed lives, they've buried truths. He has his hands in lots of dark places, and people are at risk." Jack felt the air thicken around him. What could be so deeply entwined in their lives? "You mean our lives, my life," he emphasized, looking pointedly at Richard. "What could be so terrible that we've had to hide?" He could see the flicker of vulnerability in Evelyn's eyes, like a dam about to burst. "It's not just about you. It's about your mother's past with him. Her disappearance was very real. She was trying to escape." The revelation struck Jack like a physical blow. He had spent years blaming his mother for leaving, believing she had chosen to abandon him. "You're telling me she didn't want to go?" Evelyn nodded. "There are things I learned, things that go back years. Your mother wanted to protect you from Richard, from the truth. She thought she could keep you safe." Richard shook his head violently, a fury rising up in him, threatening to explode. "You can't believe her, Jack. She's trying to poison you against me." "No," Jack said, his voice rising. "You've poisoned me my whole life. And now I have to choose who I really want to believe." A thunderous crash from below interrupted the moment, shaking the very foundation of the attic. Dust rained down, and Jack's heart raced, feeling the walls close in around them. How many secrets did this house hold? Evelyn's expression turned grave. "We have to go. Now. If Richard's willing to risk everything to keep us from knowing, things are more dangerous than we thought." Jack's pulse raced as he looked at Maria, her eyes wide with fear. He knew they couldn't turn back. They had to unravel this darkness before it consumed them all. "Lead the way," he said, his voice resolute. As they reached the staircase, Jack felt the weight of all his past decisions pressing down on him. The truth was like a storm they were about to plunge into its eye. But would they find shelter or be swept away? Just as they stepped towards the door, another tremor struck, this time shaking the very essence of their resolve. Would the foundation they built their trust upon prove strong enough to withstand what lay ahead? Jack took a deep breath, gathering his strength as the world around him seemed to crumble. He glanced back at Richard, who wore an expression of rage mixed with something deeper, fear, perhaps. It just fueled Jack's determination to push through the chaos. Maria squeezed his hand tighter, and he could feel the warmth of her support amidst the tension. They made their way down the creaky old stairs, each step echoing in the silence, a steady drumbeat against the backdrop of Richard's fury. Jack's heart thudded in time with the sound as they descended, weighing heavier with every stride. The house was shifting, creaking under the pressure of secrets all around them. He could see dust swirling in the fading light, dancing like lost souls, and he shivered at the thought of what other ghosts lingered in this place. "Stay close," Evelyn instructed, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that clouded the air. Jack nodded, acutely aware that their safety depended on how well they could navigate the treacherous ground laid by years of deceit. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, the loud crash from earlier echoed again. The noise came from the living room. Jack's instincts screamed at him to turn back, to retreat from whatever chaos lay ahead, but the fire inside him pushed him onward. He couldn't let fear hold him back any longer. "Jack." Maria's voice wobbled, and he turned to see her hesitation. "What if we find something worse than what we're already dealing with?" He met her gaze, the fear in her eyes mirrored his own. "We face it together. No more running." Evelyn nodded, her resolve evident. "We need to know the truth. Whatever Richard's hiding, it ends tonight." They stepped into the living room. The scene was chaotic, furniture was overturned, and papers were scattered across the floor, some revealing names Jack had never seen before, others marked with familiar ones that made his heart race. Richard stood at the opposite end, his fists clenched, eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, Jack. You don't understand the consequences." "Maybe it's time I did," Jack replied, his voice steady. He could feel the stakes rising again, like a tide that threatened to wash everything away. At that moment, the air shifted, and Jack could almost taste the tension, thick and bitter. Evelyn moved closer to Jack, her face pale from the unfolding drama. "What is it?" she whispered, breaking the silence that had settled like a heavy blanket. "The truth," Richard sneered, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you want to know, but once you do, you can't go back." Jack's heart raced, curiosity battling dread. What truth could possibly justify his father's control, the shadows that loomed in the corners of their lives? "You've kept us in the dark for too long, Father. What are you so afraid of?" Richard's eyes darted around the room, as though the walls could offer an escape. "You don't know who you're dealing with." Suddenly, a figure appeared in the doorway, nearly startling Jack into a gasp. It was Christina, a woman he hadn't seen in years. The housekeeper, the one who had fallen quiet during the years of turmoil, now looked resolute as she stepped forward. "I know everything," she said softly, but the strength in her voice commanded attention as if she held the weight of mountains behind her words. "What does she know?" Jack demanded, sensing this was the moment that could change everything, the ultimate revelation waiting just out of reach. "There are secrets buried deeper than you can imagine," Christina replied, locking eyes with Richard. "And they're about to come to light." Jack felt his breath hitch. The tension in the room crackled like thunder in the distance. What did this woman mean? What kind of truths had she been holding on to all these years? "Can we trust her?" Maria whispered, fear etched in her features. Jack took a step toward Christina, adrenaline flooding his system. "Tell me. What do you know?" As the words hung in the air, Jack gathered every ounce of courage he had. This was the crossroads, the moment they would either break free from the chains of their past or become lost in the storm of the family's legacy. But just as Christina prepared to reveal her secrets, the ground shook again, severing the growing connection. The sound of splitting wood rang through the house. "Get down!" Evelyn yelled, pulling Maria and Jack to the ground as the ceiling began to rain debris. In that moment of chaos, the question weighed heavy in Jack's mind: would they survive to hear the truth, whatever it may be, or would the very foundation of his life crumble beneath their feet? Dust and splinters flew everywhere as Jack found himself shielded by Evelyn and Maria. The force of the collapsing ceiling sent a jolt of panic through him. He could feel the heavy thrum of his heart against his chest, but in the chaos, he tried to focus on the voices. The world narrowed to the three of them, huddled low on the floor while debris crashed around them. "Get up!" Richard shouted, scrambling to check on Christina, who had also taken cover. "We need to get out." "No." Jack barked back, surprising everyone with the fierceness in his own voice. "We're not leaving until we find out what she knows." Richard's look of disbelief ignited Jack's fire even more. The man he recognized as his father seemed so far removed from the one who had raised him. Caught in the web of his own lies, Evelyn pulled back from the rubble with an arm around Maria. "Jack, we have to move, there might be more coming down." But Christina raised a hand, her expression resolute even as dust clouded the air. "No, listen. This is the moment to confront the truth. You can't escape it any longer." Jack nodded, grounding himself in her words. "You said you know everything. What is it?" Tears stung his eyes, a cocktail of fear and desperation swirling inside him. Still, the house continued to groan, the very structure protesting against the horrors that lay hidden within. "I knew your mother long before you were born," Christina began, her voice steady despite the chaos. Jack's heart raced again, but for different reasons. "There were things she kept from you on purpose, things I was sworn to protect." "What things?" Richard interjected, fury mingling with panic. The walls felt as if they were bearing down on them as Christina moved closer, now fierce and unwavering. "Your mother was part of something much bigger than you know. There were agreements, alliances they brought about the family you know, but they demanded secrets in return." "Agreements? What are you talking about?" Jack asked, trying to process the magnitude of what she was hinting at. "Your family has a legacy tied to organized connections," Christina continued. The room felt warmer, heavier. "Your mother was a key player in keeping this facade. But she found out too much and she sacrificed herself to protect you." Jack was left breathless. Sacrifice? Was this why his father had always been so controlling, so fearful? Richard's laugh was harsh, mocking. "You don't know what you're saying, Christina. The past is buried for good reason." "No. You buried her to keep control." Jack shouted, unleashed by revelations that bound his throat like a vice. "You turned her into a ghost, just like this house whispered and hidden." Evelyn gripped his arm, squeezing tightly as if to ground him. Maria moved closer, her eyes wide and searching, everything trembled. The floor beneath them shook once more. Jack's heart raced as he turned back to Christina, finding the strength to ask the burning question. Who was she really? But before Christina could answer, the ground buckled violently. Jack stumbled, falling to one knee. Maria gasped, and Evelyn caught her before she could fall. The shadows of the room seemed to deepen, the debris settling around them like a fog of dread. The weight of revelations hovered in the air, and Jack understood they were standing at the heart of something vast. "Jack, we have to," Evelyn started, her words drowned out by the groaning of the house. Then, just as Richard made to pull Christina away, a blast of wind swept through the room. The front door flung open with a thunderous bang. The world outside stood still, a sepulchre of the unknown. What awaited them out there? Jack looked between Richard, Christina, and his loved ones. The fragments of each of their stories hung heavily in the balance. With their lives resting on the fragile edge of secrets about to burst forth, he steadied himself for whatever truths they'd have to face together. "Come on, let us go." Richard barked suddenly, but Jack didn't budge. "I'm not leaving until I know everything," he declared resolutely, the flames of bravery erupting in his chest. As they stood surrounded by confusion, a solitary thought gripped Jack. Was stepping into the unknown really the only way to awaken the truth buried inside? But before he could act, the walls shifted ominously once more, and from the shadows, a silhouette emerged, the way forward swathed in darkness, a new adversary perhaps, or a savior. So, did they really have the choice to escape, or were they destined to confront the very essence of who they were? The moment hung heavy in the air as the silhouette stepped forward, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. Jack squinted against the shadows, his heart thumping like a drum against a relentless march. As the light flickered hesitantly from the open door, the figure emerged. Nina, the family lawyer, her expression a mix of urgency and resolve. I'm here to help, she stated, her voice clear amidst the swirling chaos. What do you mean? Jack asked, narrowing his eyes. The tension in the room thickened, everyone was waiting for answers. The agreements, the secrets it's all about to unravel if you don't act. Richard has been protecting lies that put everyone at risk, including you, Jack. Richard's face contorted, anger flaring. Stay out of this, Nina. You're treading on dangerous ground. But Jack felt a spark of hope ignite inside him. Nina, tell me everything. We can't run anymore. We have to face the truth. The truth? Richard scoffed, frustration boiling. What you want is chaos. It already is chaos, father. You created this. Jack retorted, finding strength he didn't know he had. As Nina took a breath, the tension crackled like electricity. Your mother, Jack, she wasn't just a victim. She was a key figure. The agreements Richard made to keep the family business thriving weren't always legal. She began uncovering the truths that could expose everything. And then, she disappeared. A chill washed over Jack, each word hitting like icy raindrops. What kind of truths? She discovered the family's hidden connections with dangerous people who wouldn't hesitate to silence anyone who would threaten their power. Richard knew that if she found out the whole story, she would want to expose it. Jack's chest tightened, the weight of betrayal pouring over him like a chilling mist. So you buried the truth to maintain control over everything? Yes. Richard snapped, desperation clinging to him. To keep you safe. All your life you were shielded from these realities. Do you think I wanted this life for you? I tried to protect you from the darkness. That's not protection. Jack declared, stepping closer to Richard, anger propelled by clarity. It's a prison. You've suffocated not just your family, but anyone who dared to love us. The room teetered with unsteady breaths and anxious glances, but Jack felt the tether pulling tighter, a bond forged by resilience coursing through his veins. Nina, how do we break free? Jack asked, determination shining through the haze. Nina nodded, urgency flooding her tone. You need to expose these connections publicly. Your family's foundation has cracks that'll crumble under pressure. This isn't just about you, it's about reshaping the legacy. The walls shook again, dust swirling in angry spirals as the house groaned under the weight of unshakable truths. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of Maria's hand clasped in his, grounding him. Together, he whispered, glancing back at her, seeking her strength. Together. Evelyn echoed, determination radiating in her voice. Richard's face twitched as he realized his fortress of lies was faltering. You would destroy everything I built. It's already broken, father. Jack shouted, the anguish in his voice intense, raw. You've created a prison in your own mind, and now we face freedom through truth. No. Richard roared, stepping forward threateningly. You take one more step towards that door or what? Jack interrupted, fearless, fueled by the bond he shared with Maria and Evelyn. You'll keep us in this facade forever. That ends now. Nina stepped up beside them, boldly standing her ground. You've kept him shackled long enough, Richard. This family deserves the truth, no matter how difficult it is. The floor rattled beneath them, a reminder that time was running out. Jack couldn't look back. He took a step toward the door, breathing out the words that felt like an incantation. We will not be silenced or controlled ever again. As he pushed through the door into the world beyond, the air outside felt refreshing, electric with possibility. His heart pounded, anticipation mixing with fear. Behind him, the chaos of the house settled into an eerie quiet. Would they find redemption outside? Maria's grip on his hand tightened, her expression fierce as they stepped into the light. No matter what happens, we face this together. Jack nodded, knowing deep in his bones that this was just the beginning. The storm of revelations would come, but they would weather it together, scarred yet resolute. No more living in shadows, no more fear. They would confront whatever lay ahead, because truth had the power to set them free. With one last look back at the menacing shadows of the mansion, he finally understood they were breaking a cycle. From that moment forward, stepping into the intense light of the world, the past had no power over them. Together, they would forge a new legacy, one built on love, resilience, and the unwavering courage to live authentically. Jack inhaled deeply, a radiant smile breaking through the weight of all that had happened. This was their moment. This was their truth. And as they walked forward into the dawn of a new day, he realized, freedom never tasted so sweet. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories unfolding in this journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for all that is to come. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us hear what you think. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world.